Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Live Reality Games. We are stoked to bring you our recap of episode 1, Surviving Maine, that just went down on YouTube. I hope you were there. With us today, we have Taylor and Liza from Surviving Maine. Taylor, you are the creator, really. You're the editor, the composer, everything. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Liza's the creator. I'm just the editor and producer.
That's true. You're both creators in different senses. Liza is the hostess with the mostest. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
And we're super stoked to have you with us, Jordan, from RHAP Has a Podcast, as well as Survivor Brooklyn South. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun watching this episode, and I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. We, break ground running. This is an episode that has 3 challenges. Taylor, you were talking to me about I don't know if people are into challenges. I love watching challenges. I'm all about it. I'm always looking to steal ideas or to borrow strategies and see what other players are doing to try to adopt that. So it's a jam-packed episode. You're going to see a ton of different challenges. A tribal council, we're going to lose a member, but right at the start of the game, there is a big twist that is kind of, you couldn't have seen it coming. You started the game with 20 players, and somebody drops out right away. This kind of reminds me, what is that season, Taylor? We talked about it. In Survivor, this happened before.
I want to say it was Fiji. I bet Jordan knows.
Yeah,
it was Fiji.
Yeah. Fiji. So in that season, though, they didn't even split the tribe, split the cast into tribes. They just had 19 people living together for a full day before they split them up.
So it's our first evidence of a one world season kind of occurring, really. So what did you? Liza, what's the decision making that goes down when somebody backs out at the last minute?
Yeah, I mean, it was really frustrating. Just she, had talked to me beforehand and said, "Yeah, I'll be there." Signed all of her papers, sent them all in, and then just didn't show up.
She literally said, "I'm on my way." She texted you, "I was there. I'm on my way." And you asked me if I wanted to play.
Yeah,
and I was like, I don't want to sleep outside.
Yeah. So she let us on and told us she was coming and was going to be there, and then just never showed up. And then never.
What a Karen.
What a Karen.
Yeah, I know, right? So in that moment too, we didn't have any other option. Like Taylor said, I went around and talked to people who were there and didn't help pre the weekend to see if they would jump in, but I couldn't get anybody to do it. So we just went on and moved along without her.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, Blue Tribe, I have been there. I played a season of Survivor where the Blue Tribe was the smaller tribe. I was unfortunately on it. And you know what? I got to tell you, I was super stoked to see them win and dominate. I was completely shocked. And I'm kind of curious to hear, Jordan, your perspective. Taylor and I have talked already. We had a pre-cast assessment where we spoke about these characters, but now I got to see them in action. Mm-hmm. And so let's check them out really quick.
So, there you go.
Who to you, Jordan, is really kind of standing out in this Lombard tribe, this tribe that dominated the 3 initial challenges on episode 1?
Well, I think challenge-wise, and then also from the confessionals as well. And this is someone who I think was going to stand out because I know this person and I've played live games with Cam before. So I know that Cam is a very good challenge competitor. I know that he's good at building alliances, and he seems to be in that group. I mean, they haven't been to tribal yet, so you don't really know if that group is going to hold when they do go to a tribal council. But the other person who stood out to me was Jazzy, because Jazzy is the person on that tribe who was like, I'm in an alliance with Cam, Sarah, Brandon, and Nick. I mean, again, Jasmine on the other tribe also had a similar confessional where she clearly was not as much in the loop as she thought. So that could be the case with Jazzy. But I do see she's the one person on that side who we really did see talking about alliances. Again, it's tough because they don't go to tribal. You in a first episode, you usually don't get too much about the alliances from the tribe that doesn't go to tribal. But she's someone who stood out because even if that's not true that she's in an alliance with those 5 people, she's at least thinking that way. I'm in a tribe of 9. I need to make an alliance of 5 people.
And I love that she has that strategy. I'm also loving Sarah. In all of the episodes, we don't see the strategic side of Sarah, but we see this really human, emotional side of Sarah. Even though it's Tony is possibly the social pariah on this tribe, we see Sarah actually trying to aggressively allow him to play the game, even though he feels like, I'm not a part of this. Maybe it's not his instinct to talk to people. He's maybe not as social, but Sarah's actively trying to bring him into this. I feel like that is an instinct that could help her further in this game. I have a lot of good vibes when I watching Sarah in this episode. How did you feel, Jordan?
I was also impressed by that. I think that Sarah, trying to build relationships with everybody on the tribe is always a good idea, especially early on where you really need to take a foothold. And if not, you could be the one voted out. So I was impressed by Sarah there. What I do think is that when it does come to Tony, who does seem to be the clear odd one out on that tribe, and I was very wrong about the other tribe of who I thought was the odd one out, and we'll get to Forrest, I'm sure. But it seems like Tony is having a rough time there, just at out of the gate. And if you're the person who's seen talking to the person who's the pariah, who's the person who might be the first vote, you might start to get associated with them. So as long as she's not spending too much time and too much effort trying to get Tony involved, I think that she's okay. If she starts to like go off with him, and now it seems like, oh, it's 7 of us and then 2 of them, she could get herself into trouble. But it doesn't seem like she's doing that, especially since she was listed as one of the people in the alliance that Jazzy was talking about.
Absolutely. And I was so surprised that we got that alliance right off the bat. Like, we got to hear everyone in that. So I'm curious to see how long that's going to stick together. You mentioned, Jordan, you mentioned Cameron and him playing LRGs. I don't have much knowledge about that. You want to expound upon that a little bit?
Yeah, so in actually both of the Brooklyn South games, I was in. Cam was in the game. I didn't get a chance to play with him in Brooklyn South 1, but in Brooklyn South 2, we had been in an alliance together in the pre-merge. And then we got swapped, and he actually got swapped away from me. So when we came back, when we merged, we both made the merge. We were still working together at the beginning part of the merge, but I think like I just was closer at that point with the people who swapped with me because I was literally with them the whole game. So we voted him out at the final 6, and partly because he wasn't swapped with us, so he just didn't have that same relationship with the whole group of people from our original tribe, but also because he was a threat, because he's good at challenges, because we saw that he was making alliances with other people, as he should have been doing, because you have to in the game. So he's someone you have to watch out for, but he's also a good ally. I mean, he's someone who's a good person to work with because he knows the game.
Amazing. Jordan, I could listen to your analysis forever. Like, I'm literally in awe right now. Like,
that's why he's a pro, right?
I know, right? Like, can I play Survivor with you, please? Like
I'm clipping out my Survivor know-it-alls fantasies right now. So I think this is a lot of fun for me. I love watching these seasons and trying to and I'm sure, again, like, I was so wrong about what was going to happen on the Red Tribe. So who knows if what I'm saying is even true? I have no idea.
I'm so curious. I mean, I have a lot of hope for Nick too as well. I know Nick played very well in what was this? He played another
Survivor Buffalo. Yeah.
Yes. And do you know what he placed, Taylor?
Oh, I want to say he was final 4.
Yeah, something deep.
Yeah.
I just remember he was. If it was actual Survivor, he's in the last episode, and that's what matters to me. So and watching Nick in this episode, I think he's playing everyone in the right way, that he's setting himself up similarly that he did in that game. So I see parallels between his gameplay. I don't think he's changing it up too much. So the negative side might be if people know him from that, they might already know his gameplay. So that's the only thing I'm worried about for Nick moving forward. Brandon was another one I kind of had a little bit low in my initial rankings. But when I watched the episode, I saw a lot more potential out of Brandon. I'm curious what you're thinking, Jordan, for Brandon's potential moving forward.
I mean, we really didn't see too much of him. Again, his tribe didn't go to tribal. We got to see, I think I liked Liza and Taylor, that we really got to see everybody early on in the episode. So I feel like I at least know everyone a little bit. In terms of where he is in the game, it's hard to tell. I mean, he's clearly a Survivor fan, which should help him. As any Survivor, I mean, look, most of the people who play these live games are big Survivor fans because you're playing a fan game, but there are different levels of fandom. And I think, as someone who is a super fan or super duper fan, whatever you want to call it, if he starts to show how much of a fan he is, and I kind of get that vibe from him, he could be in trouble. Or if he, finds, 5 other nerds on his tribe that are just as big fans as he is, it could work. So it's really hard to say, like, if Brandon is, how Brandon's going to do based on that first episode. But he was also someone mentioned by Jazzy. So I think I don't think he's in a bad spot, but who knows? They could lose the next tribal, and maybe he, his tribe mates get sus of him, and they could vote him out. You never know.
So we have this blue team just dominating challenges. Liza, I loved watching the challenges. I think, like, whenever I've gotten to play slingshots in Survivor, I feel like I'm a legitimate survivor every time I I miss one of the rocks. I'm like, I'm a survivor. So how do you guys come up with challenges? What's your creative process for this?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm not sure quite how to answer it. It's a lot of me looking back on old Survivor challenges and also spying in on other LRGs. And then also me and my mom specifically, we do a lot of brainstorming together. We're both, good at coming up with random ideas. And a lot of what I'm doing, especially for future seasons now, is just buying new equipment and then creating a challenge around that equipment, like the slingshots, right? I needed a way that we could incorporate that. And just made it work with what we had. So a lot of it is just me and my mom bouncing ideas off of each other, and then building what we can with what we have.
And I think so much of a great Survivor is the setting. The setting is absolutely a character in every season of Survivor. And this is a beautiful setting for an LRG. I'm so used to covering college Survivor, and I'm watching, concrete patios and sidewalks. And now I'm actually watching real Survivor. How do you get access to these? I'm curious. I want in the know as a creator myself.
Yeah. So this was part of my inspiration too for creating the game in the first place, is that I had played a bunch of games, and not that they weren't great, but they were in backyards, and much more about the social aspect rather than the survival aspect. So I realized that I had the ability to do that, and the land and the time and the space. So my family actually owns that land that's back there. In Fairfield, Maine. And we have about 300 acres, and the ability to do whatever we want to it. So we can dig holes and build things and leave them back there. So if you go back now, there's like a Survivor graveyard of all the things that we left back there. So I was just lucky to be able to have that land in my family already, that we were able to take over.
That's amazing. I want to check out this Survivor graveyard and play some slingshots out there. Let's check out the Skitter tribe. Now, the Skitter tribe started with 10 players. They definitely did not dominate the challenges. But I have a couple questions. I'm curious because Michael ends up finding the immunity idol in this episode. And the whole time, my roommates and I are watching this, we are saying, it's got to be in the reward, right? It's in the pancake mix, like old school, like mid-school Survivor. The clue's got to be in there. I don't know if I walked out of the room, but how did Michael get the clue to the idol? I completely missed that.
In the first challenge. Go ahead, Taylor.
I was just going to say the cameras missed it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
They missed Michael's shot. You can see the blue tribe finding theirs, but it was
that's in a future episode. Yeah.
Wait, spoiler alert, Liza.
I just saw it.
Yeah, we didn't see the person who gets that idol get it. That happens in a flashback in a future episode.
Okay, sorry.
Very cool. So Michael finds the clue, and then Jasmine, am I correct? She finds the idol.
Yeah.
And then she passes off the idol
to Justin. The Marine.
Okay, so we have to piece this together because we don't see everything, and I like this. This is like Clue, right? It's a mystery. We have to figure out how the hell did this happen. I don't know, Jordan. I sat there talking over the TV for about 10 minutes trying to figure out how the hell this went down. Do you have any theories, Jordan? Because we came up with Jack.
I mean, okay, so all the stuff you just said is what I have in my notes as well. Michael finds the clue, and he actually, I liked this in the episode. He has like a co-confessional with Becky where he finds the idol, and Becky clearly knows about it because I think it said she saw him not find the idol, but found the clue. They're talking about it in the confessional, so I'm expecting, we're going to like be an alliance, and we're going to use this idol together. No, that's not what happens. Michael tells the whole tribe, which again, if the whole tribe saw Michael find the clue, I think this is sort of what you have to do. And I'm sure Liza and Taylor, you have the answer to this as someone who was there. But if it was only Becky, I think it was a big mistake to share the clue with the whole tribe, because then Jasmine finds it, who clearly is someone who is on the outs with Michael and Becky based on the vote, based on the fact that she was the one that was close with Sam. They were the only two people who voted for Forrest. So I think letting Jasmine get it is a mistake, but then she gives it to Justin. And as someone who has like a close pair on the tribe, she has to assume that even though like there's this guy Forrest who's like sort of an obvious first boot, even though he doesn't end up being the first boot. If I'm Jasmine, I'm thinking I can't let anyone else get this idol. Why is she giving it to Justin? So, and then she gives it to Justin, and then he puts it on the shelter instead of keeping it. I don't know why anyone doesn't want this idol in Survivor.
Can I just say,
this whole Red Tribe, like, I love them. I love the Red Tribe, but they're a disaster of a tribe.
You gotta love Emily's confessionals, though. I was dying when she was like, "It's just there."
Oh yeah, no, it's
hear us laughing in the background of the confessional.
Here's what I was hoping. I was hoping a tribal council that it was going to be like a big rewind like Genius style reveal where like Forrest grabbed the idol and he was going to get like 9 votes and whoever he voted for went home. But that was just like a fantasy for me.
I absolutely was having the same fantasy. I was writing in the comments, like, is anybody in possession of this idol? Who owns this idol? Is this officially anyone's idol? And so Liza comments in there, yes, this is a team idol. This is free. This is new. To me, this is new ground in Survivor. This is new territory. The idea of this idol that's just sitting out there that anybody can just willingly take. And nobody took advantage of it, at least that what we saw. I was hoping Forrest would take it. I was hoping Jasmine would take it. I was hoping Michael or Emily, one of those 4 would take it. I'm still curious to know if somebody might have had it in their pocket, although that seemingly would also put a huge target on your back. But at the same time, you have an idol then. So,
yeah, I think the move is to maybe try to take it at night when everyone's sleeping. But that could, it's just so risky because you wake someone up and your game is probably over at that point. But then at least you have the idol. So if they do vote for you, you can play it. But that only saves you for one tribal. I really think the move here, I think this cycle of like the idol clue and then the idol being passed around could have ended with Michael just keeping it. But again, this is the question I wanted to ask Liza and Taylor. Did anyone else besides Becky see Michael find the clue?
Liza, do you know?
I don't know if I know the answer to that.
From the other confessionals I saw, it seems that the whole tribe saw the clue. I think Becky and him could have got away with passing that off as something else, and they could have found that on their own. I think it was Michael's decision because he thought everyone saw. Mm-hmm. He shared it with the whole group, and the whole group kind of took over the decision making from that point.
Yeah, I think at that point, it's not like if you do think that the tribe saw you, and maybe Michael feels like he's in a decent spot on this tribe. I don't think it's an awful decision if you really feel like the whole tribe saw you find it. So it's really hard to tell. I mean, we'd have to like talk to Michael and find out what he was thinking at that time. I'd be curious to know. But I mean, the biggest mistake, there were the 2 bigger mistakes, I think, were Jasmine giving it up to Justin and then Justin putting it on the shelter, because I saw like Jasmine find it in the episode, and I'm sure like most of her tribe saw her find it at that point. But I mean, at that point, it doesn't seem sneaky. Like, she was the first one to walk up to it and she took it. And clearly, like, she was not in a good spot based on the fact that she and Sam were so close and everyone seemed to know about that.
I think one of the coolest things about this cast actually is that very few of these people are super fans. These are mostly people who have seen the show on CBS and like it, and they watch every episode, but they're casuals. They don't really understand strategy. Forrest, for example, has never seen the show, you know? So so these aren't people who are thinking as deeply as you or I would, which I think makes it pretty exciting.
It reminded me of a really old school season of Survivor.
Yes.
Like, I was thinking, like, Forrest could have been taken right out of, like, Borneo casting, I think. He is such an interesting player, and I'm happy that he's going to be around for, like, probably one more episode. That's my guess, unless Red somehow wins the challenge, which I don't know if I see that happening. But he's so fun to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does going forward. Then he nicks himself with the machete, and his hand is bleeding the whole time. This guy, and then he has, like, all the jobs. He's like Debbie Wanner on the show. Now, I don't know so much about off the show. I'm not a big Debbie Wanner fan when it comes to things off Survivor, but like he keeps listing the jobs. I think it was genius to put all her jobs like in the Chiron under her name. That was a lot of fun.
Jordan, it's interesting you say that he kind of walked out of Borneo, because if this cast isn't super fans, I could see them wanting to get rid of Forrest kind of early on. But if it is super fans and you kind of create that meta of the game, isn't Forrest the type of person you do want to keep around? He's gonna cause some consternation between members of the tribe. He's gonna try to be the leader. He's gonna always try, and he's always going to be a target. So isn't that also a reason to keep Forrest around?
As a viewer, yes. As someone on the tribe, no. I think I would have been advocating for Forrest to get voted out, and the reason why is, yes, you have this duo. You have Sam and Jasmine, but you've just lost 3 challenges. You got to assume at this point you're probably not going to be the stronger tribe in challenges. You're probably going to tribal again. If you vote Forrest out here, you still have that, incredible threat of 2 people who know each other in the game. And I feel like at the next tribal council, you could get rid of one of those 2. If you have Sam and Jasmine, you're as another player on the tribe, you could probably predict what they're going to do, because they seem like rational players, and they're probably just going to vote together. There's going to be 8 people on the tribe at that point. They're probably going to try to bring 3 other people in to get a majority. If everyone agrees, we're not going to let them get a majority. It's an easy vote the next vote. Forrest, you have no idea what this guy is going to do. He seems so unpredictable. Yes, he's a pastor. Yes, he said he's honest and he's not going to take the idol. I think it's like, I could see him being the person to say, you know what, I got 2 votes last tribal council. I'm going to be the one to take the idol now. Let's see. I don't know if he's going to do that, but my point is that it's very hard to predict somebody who's not playing to win. If you have 2 people who are a pair who are playing to win, yes, they're powerful, but I think you could get rid of that at another time.
That's such a great statement, Jordan. It's a player that's not playing to win. They're playing to have the adventure. They're playing to well, it's for Forrest. His name's Forrest, and he lives in a treehouse. I find that very ironic. But he's really creating their home. I think he's a different type of leader. He's not a strategy leader in Survivor. He's really trying to create like what his imagination of maybe what Naked and Afraid is more like than actually the game of Survivor. I love watching these players because I like seeing if they can actually figure out the game before the point that they're going to get eliminated. And Forrest didn't get eliminated yet. Can he figure it out in the next, what would it be in game mode? Like 3 hours, Liza, like before the next elimination?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think that even still, I'm struggling with trying to figure out whether Forrest knew what was going on or whether he really didn't know what was going on. Whether it was an act or real. So I don't think that I can answer that question because I'm not sure. I'm not sure where he was really at. And you see Forrest in this episode, and then you have to picture him 10 times bigger and 10 times more than he is in this episode, because that's really what he's like.
Except he's very small.
Except he's small, yeah. The personality, I mean.
You know what's interesting, though? Let's say Red goes to tribal again, which I would not be shocked if they lost the next immunity challenge. I almost think, yes, I do think that Forrest should have been the first boot, But now that you've gotten rid of Sam, I almost think for the other 7 people, right? It might even be a better idea at this point to get rid of Jasmine, because Jasmine just lost her partner in the game. And if you get like a swap situation, is she ever going to trust these people again? Where I feel like Forrest, who doesn't know the game, might be someone who, if you're able to like appeal to his interests or like to get him to trust you, maybe he's more likely to work with you down the road. But I still think that like, if you're looking at this as like, okay, we got rid of the pair, they're not that much of a threat anymore. Let's just get rid of this wild card now. So I think either way could be a good move. But I think once you get rid of one pair of a couple, it's not a bad idea to just get the other pair out of the way, because like how is Jasmine ever going to trust the rest of the people on this tribe? She's someone who could flip if there's a swap. Like, I don't think Forrest knows how to flip if there's a swap. He's probably just going to stick with the people he knows.
I'm still so curious why Jasmine gave the idol to Justin and maybe not Michael, who had the clue in the first place. I keep going back to this like decision. I hope there's more context to this.
There is not. I am very sorry.
Okay, that's how it is.
No one knows.
Live games.
And Jasmine did not like to do confessionals. She wasn't good at it. She didn't like to be on camera. So we have no idea what she was thinking.
What I will say though about this Red Tribe, even though like as a tribe, I've been not down on them because I love watching them, but like as a tribe, I call them a disaster, and they are. But as individuals, I do think there are players on this tribe. Like I think, Jasmine and Sam Jasmine had a confessional where she said, I have a 5-person alliance too. And she listed Sam, obviously, who's her friend. She listed Justin. She listed Emily. She listed Becky. At the same time, Katie, I think, had a confessional where she said she was working with Toby, Justin, I can't read my handwriting there, and also Becky, which means that, first of all, Becky is doing a good job ingratiating herself with everybody, because everyone thinks that everyone who had a confessional about alliances thought that Becky was with them. The people that were not mentioned by Jasmine and Sam as people that they said they were working with are Toby and Michael. So from their point of view, getting rid of Sam, I think, is a great move, because you have this couple that doesn't think they're working with them. Like, why should they want to keep this couple around? Where for Toby and Michael, it might be beneficial to have Forrest around. So I think that we didn't really hear so much from them, outside of like Michael finding the clue, and we didn't really hear too much about like their alliances or what they're doing strategically. But I think just based on the fact that Jasmine and Sam didn't mention those two as being with them, I think it could be good for them that this pair is now, half the pair is out the game.
Absolutely. That's a huge advantage. I adore Sam, and I really was hoping to watch more Sam, but I gotta say, Forrest, you surviving, that's the show Survivor for me. Like, the fact that you don't know this game, you came into it, you don't know what you're doing. When you go to the voting booth, he doesn't even know what he's like what am I executing here in game sense? I'm writing down who's leaving. And so Forrest voted for Jasmine, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Sam and Jasmine voted against Forrest, and everybody else voted against Sam. I'm still surprised Jasmine didn't get wind of this. Like, good on the 7.
Yeah. Oh, Katie is the other one who wasn't mentioned by Sam and Jasmine. So I think it was a good idea for her to get rid of that pair. That's the name I couldn't read of my own handwriting.
I like Michael's quote in this episode. It's like the apple, and if you eat the apple, you're going home. It reminded me of James Clement, and is it Micronesia or?
That was in China. But
China,
yeah. I was thinking the same thing. That was. Michael seems like he is a big survivor. I think he had like a shirt with all the Survivor logos, so I think he was definitely alluding to that. So I always appreciate when people pay homage to past seasons of Survivor.
So I've watched Michael play. I've played against Michael years ago. Michael was booted early. In my cast assessment with Taylor last week, I put Michael kind of low based on experience. I've watched him play in real life, and I played against him in real life, and both times he didn't do well. And I got to tell you, this is not the same game Michael played years ago. He is playing a different game. He was savvier. He was not. I could tell it was still, like, Michael, if you're watching, it wasn't easy for you to talk to people, but it was easier than it was 5 years ago. And I could see you actually making those moves that I think you need to make in Survivor. So I was wrong. Michael's not the first boot, so that's my first incorrect assumption moving forward with this. Liza, Taylor, anything else that sticks out to you from this episode? Some behind the scenes things that we didn't get to see?
There was actually another challenge. The very first challenge was cut out. It did not go well.
This happens. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, so it was where we are in the woods, there's no water. To get water is like a feat. You have to, drive and fill gallons of jugs in your car and bring them back. And our first challenge was a challenge that involved water. And we thought we had enough ready to go for that. But clearly we didn't. So we just had to keep making adjustments to make the challenge end. So we just decided that it was better off not putting it in the first episode to hopefully keep people watching throughout the season. But yeah, do you have anything else to add, Taylor?
You covered it. Yeah. I will say the Skitter tribe won that first challenge.
Wow. I didn't even remember.
So, yeah.
Oh, really?
I guess they do have the ability to win a challenge.
Yeah.
But one of the ones that the one with the combination where they had a huge lead and they lost, that was almost luck based, where I guess they miscount the number of rocks, so they put the wrong combination in. I don't know what happened there, but they physically could have won that challenge. So I am maybe overstating it. It's more of that they're like a disaster when it comes to like tribal decision making and who they're voting out, who they're keeping in. They're just like, there's always a tribe on Survivor who's like the messy tribe that's really fun to watch, and that's clearly them. Blue, I think, has it together, where I think we're going to see maybe more like typical strategy from that tribe if they go to tribal.
Which is such a blast, Jordan, because I'll tell you from the cast assessment, when I watched that last week, I would have gone completely opposite. I thought the blue tribe was a hot mess. I thought the red tribe was going to have everything together. I'll be interested to see that. But now, getting that little information that Skitter had it together, they can actually win a challenge. Maybe we will see something a little bit different moving forward.
Also, too, in the walk-in, it wasn't a challenge, but the walk-in part, Lombard is the blue tribe is the one that got lost. Really, really, really lost
for a long time.
I think that kind of that other way too. Our camera guy Nick was following them in, and took a different turn and tried to get some good drone shots, and ended up so lost and ended up on another road. And we had to send somebody to drive around and pick him up because he couldn't figure out how to get back. So they were pretty far off from where they were supposed to be.
So I love this when this happens in games. So in Survival Challenge a couple of years ago, this occurred where teams had compasses and trails, and they decided to not follow the map, and they went completely into the middle of the woods, in the brambles, into the ticks and the high weeds, and it was a hot mess. And then I played a game of Coco Pele once, which is a Survivor game, and we were all looking for the idol. It was a team clue, and somebody ended up walking around the entire lake, and they were on this other side of this pond when the challenge was about to start, and they literally didn't participate in immunity because they couldn't get back in time. With these live games, some of you watching this might be like, that was a lot of challenges in the first episode. But one of the things that we do as live hosts is we really try to create the Survivor experience. So even if you're the first, second, third, fourth person booted, you really feel like you had that full experience. You played this game, because most people that come out here really want to do this. So I was stoked to see all of these players play that. And I think Sarah said it so well. What did Sarah say? Like, I came here to get into the mud and to get dirty. And that's also a quote that gives me so much hope for her. Jordan, I got to tell you, I think Sarah could be one of these top contenders this season.
So Sarah it's funny, like when I heard her confessionals, first of all were really interesting. And she's someone, until her name came up at Tribal Council, where I was like, I think this is someone who could do well in the game. I didn't see her getting voted out at all. I think between her and Jasmine, I think that I was more impressed with her than Jasmine, just for the pure reason that Jasmine gave up the idol. And also Jasmine had a confessional where she thought a lot of people were working with her that clearly weren't working with her. So I actually thought that Sam is someone, just based on her demeanor, based on the fact that I think that I'm guessing, my guess is that she probably does watch Survivor because her confessionals seem like confessionals that could be on the actual show, which is a skill. So I really liked her. It was unfortunate to see her go home, but at the same time, like, that also means we get to see Forrest more, who is, I think, the standout character from the premiere, and it's not even close.
So Taylor and Liza, from your perspective, who are the biggest super fans that came into this season? Like, who are the players that are just coming in to blindside, that are coming in to have that Survivor dream?
You want to take it?
For me, Cameron was definitely a standout as far as super fans go, but that might also be because I knew him pretty well pre-game, because we played in Brooklyn South together. And I also, who was the other person? I have a couple of my like win picks, but as far as strategy goes, I'm not sure. That's not usually how I like pick my winners or my favorites. But I know that Cameron was definitely one of the top ones for me.
So since we're kind of on the topic of win picks right now, Liza, Taylor, you're spoiled. Jordan, you're not spoiled, right? You're completely in the dark team.
I have no idea.
Okay, so after this episode, my top 4 are going to kind of slightly alter. I'm curious who some of your top picks are to potentially go deep in this game, regardless of the team they're starting on.
Okay, so regardless of the team they're starting on, I mean, that's hard to do, because I look at the blue tribe as sort of the tribe that I would guess would have more of the numbers going into a merge. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, because if the tribes swap, which I assume they probably will, like, that could, that blurs the lines, and you could have 2 swaps, and then it really doesn't matter who started on each tribe. But just because, I mean, Cam is someone I've played with, I know he's someone who has the ability to win the game. He'd definitely be one of the people that I would put up there. I think Sarah, for the same reason you stated before, if she has this, this philosophy where she's not just going to, work with, she's not just going to, stick with her group and stick with her majority, and she's going to reach out to some of the people that are maybe the outliers, as long as she doesn't bring it to that extent where she's, making herself a pariah. I think that's a good skill to have in Survivor, because first of all, you need to have like sub alliances. You need to, at some point, if there's someone you think that could beat you in your alliance, you need to have these numbers where you could turn on them. And then you also need jury votes. So if she's someone who's making everyone feel comfortable and everyone likes her, I could see her, if she gets to the end, getting jury votes because of that. But again, we're so far from that who knows? She could be the next one voted out. You never know. I think that I said I was impressed with Jazzy. She's someone who is clearly thinking majority, thinking like this is how the game works. This is what I'm going to do. And then I've given you 3 people from the blue tribe. I know you said regardless of tribe, but it's hard to do that after watching the episode. And again, it's hard because Becky's the other person on the tribe that I know. But just the fact that both, so like, obviously one of the groups wasn't really a group, but everyone seemed to be working with Becky. I think that bodes well for her, because she's clearly getting in with all the groups on her tribe. But it really, like, I was impressed with Katie. I was impressed with Michael, Toby. On the other tribe, I didn't see enough from Brandon to even really form an opinion, but he's clearly a fan, so he could be up there too. And anyone in that, if the group of 5 people that Jazzy talked about is the dominant alliance on that tribe, and they're able to get to the merge and they're close and they don't break, any of those 5 could be the winner. You never know. It's hard to tell after one episode.
I agree, Jordan. And I kind of feel like I'd rather pick most of my players from the blue tribe as well. If I went with the red tribe, I agree. My first 2 picks, when I saw the cast assessment, were Toby and Katie. And I think they're still high up there, but they're not my top 2. I agree. I think Becky, there was just too much connection with Becky and so many players. I think she's the thoroughfare for information right now, and that is the place you want to be. And I also think Justin's move is interesting. I gotta say, it might seem like a stupid move, but I think if these aren't super fans, perhaps we're going to get a sense that he can use this to kind of emotionally manipulate the situation. This is our idol. Let's use it to protect us. And I think that can be a huge advantage potentially going further if he has the potential to pull that off. And I think I need to see more of Justin to know if he can do that. And then with the Blue Tribe, I'm really still loving Sarah. Of course, I've been talking her up and down, and I still think Nick has a huge win potential. I think Nick has what it takes. And I think if the two of them unify in this game, I think they can do some major damage going further.
I'd love to see a Michael versus Toby final too, just as an Office fan.
Yeah, totally. Toby's my twin, apparently. I don't know if anybody else thinks this, but
which one's Toby? Toby.
I think it.
Oh, I could see it. I could see it. Actually, you know what? When I first got on the call with you, I was like, wait, was he on the show?
Did I play this?
Yeah, I could see it. And I like Toby. He's a teacher like me. He seemed like someone who was a big fan. I was impressed with him as well, just partly from the fact that he was in that group who got the vote through, but he was also someone who impressed me in his first confessional when he's just talking about himself.
Absolutely. He had a great first confessional, and then like Dustin said in the comments, he kind of disappeared, which can sometimes, who knows what that means in an episode 1. Taylor, so one thing some of you at home might not realize is that Taylor, when I said the creator, I mean the editor, and not only the editor, because we have a lot of editors in the LRG community, but also the composer. And I gotta say, Taylor, I adore it. I think it was riveting. It's fun to hear not the same background constantly. I'm just curious, how long does it take you to edit an episode, the creation? Yeah, the reason I want to talk about this, Taylor, is I think other hosts here should be hiring you.
I will work for money. I haven't yet, but I will work for money, yes.
I mean,
so the editing itself, so the first episode is the worst one, and it's pretty good, but they get consecutively just better and better, not just because I'm like figuring out how to do this, because I had no idea really what I was doing when I started, but because it gets easier and the players make great moves. It gets really fun at each episode. So it took me maybe for an hour episode, and there are maybe, I just finished episode 8. Half of them are about 45 minutes to an hour. The other half are about half an hour. For an hour episode, it took me maybe 40 hours to just cut it. And then another 5 to 10 to do the sound, try to get all the wind noise. There's so much background noise. And I really start getting good at it around episode 3. So it gets better around episode 3.
I was a big fan of the soundtrack as well. And Taylor, I didn't know that you did it, but in retrospect, it makes sense because I've heard your Survivor-related musical productions before. I really liked it too, and it wasn't like you go into it. It was something that at first I was like, "Whoa, this is different," but not in a bad way. It made it feel like its own show, and while it's still Survivor, it had its own character, and I think that's cool because I've watched. I haven't watched that many LRGs, but I've watched a couple of them, and they all use Survivor music, which is cool too, because as a Survivor fan, I like that music. But this gave it its own feel. Made it, I think, a more unique experience watching the show.
It's so individualistic, and like I said last week, I feel like the mood of it is very adventurous, pastoral, folky, and I like getting back to
Maine.
That root. Yeah, it's Maine, totally. I think Michigan's like Maine. It's not Maine, but we're up there too. You get that sense of adventure that brings us back to the heart of really what Survivor started as, and the music gets really tense nowadays. That always is putting you in that uber tense mode, and it's nice to just relax and enjoy a challenge for a second and really live that moment. I'm stoked. Everybody at LRG Podcast, thank you for letting me cover this series. You guys are suckers. I can't believe you didn't pick this one up before I did. You're crazy people. This is going to be a blast. Then Liza, is there one other thing I want to talk about before we go is the production value. I just love, there's so many things that remind me of Survival Challenge. Of course, that's got to be an inspirational, but You have to have some help with this. That backdrop at Tribal Council is amazing. Do we have any shout outs to do for how did your team create this?
Yeah, so it's really, for the most part, myself, my mom, and my partner, who are spending our weekends and our evenings getting all of this stuff together. We constantly have a Survivor challenge being built in part of our house, my house and my mom's house. So yeah, it's just that we spread it out throughout the year and keep it going, and getting as much done as we can. And for season 2, I was lucky too to be able to get some other people that I know and who found Surviving Maine to create their own challenges. So this season we had Doug LaCourse create a challenge, Sam Kugat created a challenge, and Sam too is another member of my team who is constantly helping and ready to jump in.
She plays Survivor New York season 4.
She did, yes.
I did production for that season.
Okay.
That's coming whenever, I don't know when, but hopefully soon.
Probably soon. Chris is pretty on top of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of it is just us three, my mom, myself, and my partner. And then we get a little help everywhere else along the way.
Well, this is season 2, folks. Can you imagine what we might get in the next season coming up, 2022? I just saw it in the comments, right? So this has been a blast. Taylor, when is the next episode that we can watch?
Next Wednesday at 7 Eastern. It'll be streaming live again.
And you can catch me right afterwards doing a recap right here. As well, I got to do a couple shout outs for our favorite live reality games. Tomorrow is the Boston finale. If you have not watched Boston, this is Survivor meets Theater Majors. That's all I got to say. There's also an episode of Liberty Union tomorrow. And I got to do a shout out from my boys. I can't even believe I'm still in the episode. It's the finale of British Columbia on Saturday. And for some reason, I'm still in the game. Check that out. Guys, it's been a blast. I can't wait to see what you come up with next week. Jordan, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and Liza and Taylor. This is a really fun episode. I'm looking forward to seeing the next one. I'm gonna start my Forrest fan account on Twitter. I don't think he's gonna be around that much longer, but as much as we could get from this guy, the better. I hope that Red just blows my mind. Doesn't go back to tribal. He's able to get into a swap because who's targeting him at a swap? I don't know. He could go far. So that would be, I think, the best case scenario.
Absolutely. Skylar, I'll hit you up next time. I'm so sorry I wasn't following the chats too much this episode, so I'll get you in next time. Thanks everybody for joining in.